All right, so today's video, this is going to be a training log. This is my first lower session of the week. It's going to be quad focused, a little bit of lats, and then some upper traps, some abs as well, a little bit of everything. I did skip calves today, so I'll own up to that. Something I got to do a better job of moving forward. So what I'm starting off with here is a plat squat, and this is, I guess, more than just a squat. I think with this movement, it's exposing a weakness of mine that I've always had, which is my quads. I've always been very glute dominant, just posterior dominant in general. So in the broader scope, when you're training for hypertrophy, one thing that you need to be able to do is understand your weak spots and expose your weaknesses. So for something like a plat squat for me, I mean, I'm using a small amount of weight when I could just go to low bar and pump up my ego and make me feel good about myself, load up a bunch of weight and just have easier technique. It will feel more stable. But investing the time into something like a plat squat that just is a lift that I'm not quite built for, to expose my weaknesses and build them up. Maybe my quads will never be a strength, but to bring them up so they're not lagging behind and turn me into more of a well-rounded lifter, this is going to be key to building a good physique in natural lifting. So understanding and exposing your weaknesses in your training and finding ways to manipulate your exercise selection and manipulate the lifts that you're already doing. So instead of me doing a low bar squat, hiding my weaknesses and catering to my strengths, I'm doing a heel elevation, I'm doing a narrow stance, keeping my chest upright, and I'm modifying my technique and setting it up to expose my weakness of my quads. Up next, what you'll see here, these are some power shrugs. In my opinion, this is about the best to get when it comes to building traps. You get a heavy weighted stretch, and I think with a lot of back movements that you'll see, especially in my training, I do believe that cheat reps play a huge role, because I think the strength curve on most lifts that target, whether it's your lats or traps, is definitely skewed as you start to contract. So having some cheat reps and some cheat movements properly set up and programmed into your training is going to be key to get the most you can out of your back development. So power shrugs, big weighted stretch, and that's a perfect example of what I talked about in my last video about using heavier weight than I think I should, actually, to set the technique up that I need to get the most out of that lift. What you're seeing here, just shoulder width overhand pronated pull-ups. Very straightforward here, just keeping these real close to failure. I do typically like to keep about 1 rep in the tank, but those I was doing a couple partials on the last few, just really pushing it to failure because I missed a day in my earlier this week, and I just want to make sure I'm getting the most out of one less session this week. Over here, what you're seeing, some rope crunches, very straightforward here. Just getting more ab work. I don't require a whole ton because I've always skipped it for the past 6 years, 7 years since I've been lifting. I've never done core work until recently, at least in a direct sense, like something like this. So I'm getting better at it. Obviously, I'm making a bunch of noob gains in terms of muscle and strength here. Don't really care so much about the strength, but yeah, I do have to start loading up some more weight as I go on here. The reps are getting a little bit high. Back to the pull-ups again, another set here. Just so you guys know, I think every other clip in this is going to be in double speed or 1.5 speed. So just so you're aware of my technique, yeah, this is sped up for sure. So yeah, obviously push real close to failure there. And back to the crunches here. This is just kind of a classic case of, it's a lift where I'm making a ton of noob gains and I'm still figuring out what I need to do for rep ranges and for weight. So with my progression with the rep goal system or a dynamic double variation, stuff like this, I'm pretty much progressing in weight almost every time I do them. Like it's a classic case of linear progression, just because I'm refining my technique and building strength at a rapid rate because I didn't have much there to begin with. So I do have to up my weight. I'm not too worried about my reps or my proximity to failure quite yet, because I'm still figuring out where my starting point truly will be for that lift where I actually start to build a lot of muscle. Up next, you're seeing leg extensions. I do want you guys to pay attention to how I do them here. I think one thing that tends to happen with a lot of people doing leg extensions, they use a lot of momentum. One thing you'll see here is I like to keep a consistent tempo. I don't drop it at the bottom in the lengthened position. That's where you build a lot of muscle. And then I do a couple partials past failure until I legit just can't kick it out any farther. So taken to failure, good, consistent, strict technique on the leg extensions. And then with these neutral grip lat pull downs, I like to get almost a full stretch on my lats. You'll notice I can't quite bend my arms all the way out recently, can't get a full extension because the lat pull down just isn't tall enough. But what I do to compensate for that is lean forwards just a little bit at the top. So you'll see my arm angle actually does allow my lat to get a pretty good stretch at the top. Last few reps, like most other lifts I do for back, there is going to be a little bit of cheat just to take it beyond failure and kind of hack around that weird strength curve for most lifts when it comes to back training. So that's going to be it for today. Keeping it quick, keeping it simple. I just do this for you guys to take a look at how I train. So with that being said, that's it for today. I'll see you guys soon.